Now, the first place I learned this, oddly enough, was from a kind of unlikely source. Many years ago, when I was working in New York, I directed a show, the Broadway revival of Gypsy, and it starred Angela Lansbury. And at that point, Angela Lansbury had already had 30 or 40 years of a career. She was a very, she'd had hits on Broadway. She'd had Academy Awards. She won her first one when she was 18 years old. She was an established person. Is that a 10-minute warning? Okay. And there was a young woman in this play, Gypsy, playing the grown-up Gypsy, whose name was Zan Charisse. And she was a lovely young girl, and it was her first big Broadway thing. And she came from that Charisse family, the dancers, Sid Charisse, and that. So she came from a show business background. She knew her way around, show business stage. But she was incredibly nervous. At every rehearsal and everything, she was just nervous. It was her first time. She was a nervous girl. And I think coming from an established family only made it worse, because now there was more to lose. There was more at stake. There was more success to, more stuff. And I will never know why Angela invited me to. Maybe I don't know why this happened actually. But we were backstage, and Zan was in tears about something the director had said to her, and now she was afraid to go out and redo the number. She was so nervous that she wouldn't meet with the director, all the things. And I mean, to the point that this girl who weighed like 108 pounds, she was a dancer, totally lean, and she was in flop sweat. I mean, backstage in an air-conditioned theater, she was just like pouring sweat. She was so freaked and so nervous. And maybe Angela just wanted another young person there, I don't know. But I had been following her that day, going over notes with her that the director had given me to pass to her. And she said, "Zan, come here." And she pulled up a chair in the wings, and she sat us both down. And I'm sitting, it's like Angela and me and Zan there. And she said to her, "There's nothing to be afraid of." And Zan said, "But there's this, and there's this, and there's that, and the director, and Natalie Wood, all the things that she was nervous about." And Angela said, "All of that's true, but it doesn't matter." And she said, "Yes, it does matter, because my age, and then my parents, all this." And then Angela said, "No, none of that matters either. The only thing that matters is that you go on the stage and let everybody in that audience know that this little girl is going to step out of the shadows and succeed. That's all you have to do. Your job is to tell that story. And if you don't go on that stage and tell your little part of that story in this number, then the big story's incomplete. That's all you have to do. Now, if you fail at that, God is mad at you. But nothing else can go wrong. That's your only job. Think of nothing but that. Everyone in this theater must leave with the idea in their mind that any one of them can step out of the shadow and be a full person. If you do that, that's all you have to worry about. And I had no idea, really, what that meant. But Zan sort of sat up and she calmed herself down. There wasn't like a miraculous haloed aura appearing around her, but she seemed better. And she went out and did Gypsy's final number, when she called Let Me Entertain You, and it's the big payoff to this character. And, sorry, the director of this particular production was also the man who'd written the book, Arthur Lawrence. He had written the book, and he's not a particularly nice man. He's a harsh, difficult, demanding guy. And Zan did this number. She was fine. It wasn't like, but she was solid. She was fine. And Arthur stood up, and because he'd been really hard on her, and he was the kind of guy that if, you know how the A dog will attack the weakest dog. Well, he knew that Zan was the weakest, and so that's who he attacked regularly. And he didn't make a big deal, but he just said, that'll be all right. Well, for her, it was like, you know, a tone, because the guy who she most wanted to please had thought she'd done okay. Not great, she'd done okay. But from then on, so the show opened, or came into previews, and it was opening night. And Angela always came to the theater very early, much earlier than most people show up at the theater. And it happened that I was there, and there were some notes from the last preview, the night before, that Arthur wanted me to give to her, and I had an appointment 2 hours before curtain. She usually came in about 2.5 hours. And I had an appointment 2 hours before curtain to go over these notes. And she was just so at ease. And I said to her, it's opening night, you seem, she said, well, I've done my work. And I said, what? And she said, well, just like I told Sam. I went over the story. My job is to go out there and let people know that everybody gets their chance. That's my job. Everybody gets their chance. And no matter how you have cycled your life through others, you finally get your own shot. That's my job. And she said, and I think through the story every night. Every night. I go through piece by piece by piece by pieces of the story. Now, she was playing Mama Rose. She had a lot of pieces of her story to tell in that particular play. But it wasn't until later, when I was working with all of you guys, that I began to realize that that is the core of it. Because you are investing in everything but your damn job. Will I be good? Will they like me? Will I get the part? Will my agent approve? Will I have more auditions? What if I succeed? You're investing in everything but your job. The only job you have in that audition is to get that story across. You cannot control whether you're the right one, whether they like you, you can't control any of that. What you can control is that story, whatever little chunk of story you have to tell, is told. And a story is a series of events that have meaning. And most of you let auditions be just a series of events. Some lines. You do not remember and think, why are these lines here? What is the story that is told? If these lines weren't said, what piece of the larger story that this is a part of, and the larger story that this play is a part of, the story of life, if these lines weren't said, what little increment in this thing that has meaning would have been left out? And I can tell you from sitting as a casting director, this is the primary hollowness that you feel at callbacks, is you feel everybody trying to get the part and nobody telling the story. Mm-hmm. If you will let yourself think about that, and really not just go, I should work on the story, but work on it. Think about it. What is this piece mean? What is the story? And then your mind will start thinking of others' examples of it. You'll start rolling out from there, and your mind will be off of all that other stuff that makes you nervous.